Food and video games have an interesting relationship. While snack foods and gaming tend to go hand in Cheetos dust-covered hand, it's difficult to consume, say, a full Sunday roast or mighty meaty pizza while gaming without one of the experiences suffering due to each requiring your full concentration. This video isn't about that though, tragic as it may be. Nor is it about games that have a food theme, or even those titles that insist on rendering digital food that looks so good it's cruel that you can't reach into the screen, grab it, and tuck in. No, this list is about when you, the player, are the food. It's true, there are a surprising number of video games out there whose protagonist is distinctly edible, and we'd like to tickle your taste buds with 10 of them today. From sweet treats to culinary classics to healthy alternatives, we should have something for everyone's palate. Not that you should be thinking about eating these protagonists though. I mean, who's gonna save the day if Bacon Man is making his way through your small intestine? And yes, there is actually a game called Bacon Man. We'll get to that later. For now then, just sit back, tuck your napkin into your shirt, and allow me to serve up some video games that take the phrase, "you are what you eat," a little too literally. I'm Peter from TripleJump, and here are 10 games where you play as food. Number 10. I Am Bread. Developed by Bossa Studios and released in 2015, this indie title may initially come across as a rather wholemeal experience. Sorry, I meant wholesome. But actually, there's a darker side to all the bread-based action. The aim of I Am Bread is to get a slice of bread to the toaster as quickly as possible, while avoiding unsanitary situations that decrease the bread's edibility meter. The intrepid slice is guided around the various locations by the player, and uses its incredible grip to climb up vertical surfaces and dangle precariously above hazardous drops. The mission to become toast is pursued to the exclusion of all else, with the bread's path littered with broken household items and unsightly spillages. Then there's that darker side we mentioned earlier, and we don't mean that one side of the bread is more toasted than the other. The game's story concerns a therapy patient named Mr. Merton, who is deeply troubled due to what appear to be repeated home invasions where the perpetrator leaves a slice of toast as a calling card. We might have something to do with that, I think. After coming to suspect that the bread itself might be the culprit, Mr. Merton's therapist becomes understandably concerned. We know the truth though. We know that it is the bread because we are the bread. We are bread, you are bread, I am bread. Number 9. Turnip Boy commits tax evasion. Turnip Boy is an adorable root vegetable who lives in a colourful and cheery world filled with cute characters, green trees, and jaunty music. Much like I Am Bread, however, there's a lot more going on here than meets the eye. The first clue is in the game's title. In Turnip Boy Commits Tax Evasion, Turnip Boy does just that, and tax evasion is a crime. Further eventual revelations that Turnip Boy is the descendant of a vegetable mafia family, and that Turnip Boy's world is the result of some kind of nuclear event that almost wiped out humanity and caused fruit and vegetables to mutate into sentient creatures, only add to the unease. He's still an adorable little mutated crime turnip though, isn't he? The game plays out from a top-down viewpoint, with players controlling Turnip Boy as he explores the world and engages in hack-and-slash combat. The near-spherical protagonist can equip weapons and items, and must explore dungeons and defeat wacky bosses in order to progress the adventure. Turnip Boy's escapades aim to please with zany humour and absurd situations, but be warned, if you're not into memes and social media references, you might just find the whole thing a bit, taxing. Number 8. Princess Tomato in the Salad Kingdom. We're going to keep things in the vegetable patch for a moment with this next entry, and yes, we're aware that botanically the tomato is a fruit, but people grow them in their vegetable patches, so just shut up, will ya? A vegetable patch is also where you'll find the likes of Sir Cucumber, the protagonist of Princess Tomato in the Salad Kingdom, which is an obscure adventure game released for the NES in 1984. The backstory for Princess Tomato in the Salad Kingdom is as follows. King Broccoli, ruler of the Salad Kingdom, was betrayed by the nefarious Minister Pumpkin, who stole away his daughter, Princess Tomato, to the Zucchini Mountains. Before passing away due to the sorrow from the loss of his beloved daughter, King Broccoli promised Sir Cucumber the princess's hand in marriage should he save her, and so the quest begins. Does Princess Tomato get a say in this? Playing like an old-school illustrated text adventure with the occasional first-person section mixed in to spice things up, Princess Tomato in the Salad Kingdom will see players exploring places like Spinach Heights and the Parsley Forest, and interacting with baby persimmons and isolated hermit carrots. That's quite a mix of ingredients, but I still think that salads can sometimes taste a bit plain on their own, so hopefully there's a dressing kingdom nearby. Number 7. Cauldron 2, The Pumpkin Strikes Back. One more trip to the vegetable patch and then we'll move on, okay? I promise. And yes, again, I know that botanically a pumpkin is a fruit, but it belongs in the vegetable patch, not some kind of orchard, so cool off, you obsessive botanical classification types. This next game is the sequel to Cauldron, in which the player controlled a witch as she embarked upon a quest to collect ingredients for a spell that would defeat her nemesis, the Pump King. With the 1986 sequel, originally released on the Commodore 64, developers Palace Software took the surprising route of telling the story from the other side. In Cauldron 2, The Pumpkin Strikes Back, players take on the role of a pumpkin on a mission to exact revenge on the first game's protagonist, now known as the Witch Queen. This decision results in a lot of bouncy platforming, as the vengeance-minded Gord is constantly in springy motion, and players must time their jumps precisely in order to avoid enemies and proceed through the witch's castle. After finding all the items necessary to complete the game, the pumpkin unceremoniously immerses itself into the witch's cauldron, and a congratulatory message is shown. Did we just poison her soup or something? It's all a bit anticlimactic, if you ask me. Number 6. Super Meat Boy. Alright, we've made the vegetarians happy for the past few entries, now it's time to cater to the carnivores with Super Meat Boy. Although, come to think of it, we don't actually know what kind of meat Super Meat Boy is. Is he edible meat, or is he just Meat Boy meat? There are some dark connotations here, but should we just talk about the game and pretend that he's definitely deliciously edible? Yeah, let's do that. Known for its quick-fire gameplay, precise controls, and fiendishly tricky levels requiring many restarts, Super Meat Boy is an iconic indie platformer released in 2010 by Team Meat. In the game, players control the tender protagonist as he leaps and wall jumps through increasingly difficult levels featuring numerous saw blades, laser beams, and other such devilish traps in a bid to reach Bandage Girl, and there are even some unsettling boss encounters thrown in for good measure. Perhaps the most disturbing things about Super Meat Boy, though, are the little squishy noises he makes while running around, and the trails of blood that he leaves on floors and walls whenever he passes. This implies to me that even if Super Meat Boy is edible, he's very undercooked. In fact, I don't think he's been cooked at all. I know some people like their steaks rare, but this is ridiculous. Number 5. Mushroom Men, The Spore Wars. Let's say you did slap Super Meat Boy onto a griddle and give him a thorough searing, and you needed something to complement that nice big Meat Boy steak. Well, how about a nice side helping of tasty mushrooms? Released for the Wii in 2008, Mushroom Men: The Spore Wars is an action platformer that tells the story of a comet striking Earth and emitting a strange green powder that mutates mushrooms and causes them to gain sentience. Newly awakened and invigorated Motivated by the will to survive, these mushroom people form into tribes, and mushroom conflict ensues. The protagonist, Pax, is a bolete mushroom, which, according to our research, is a family of mushrooms of which most are edible, so he totally qualifies for our list, but please do be careful with mushrooms out there. Do not eat anything you can't confidently identify. See, we're responsible here at TripleJump, sometimes. In any case, Pax is a lone wanderer and finds himself up against the evil Lepiota mushroom, Pester. Lepiota mushrooms are mostly poisonous though, so definitely don't eat that guy. If Pax's Wii-bound adventure isn't enough for you though, there's also Mushroom Men Rise of the Fungi for DS, which also released in 2008. This platformer reviewed pretty badly though, so if you are looking for some mushroom-flavoured fun, then we'd advise sticking to Mushroom Men The Spore Wars. The Wii game is just a lot more, fun, guys. Number 4. Dizzy. If you're a gamer who's been around for a while, or you're interested in the retro gaming scene, you may well have already gone on a number of side-scrolling puzzle-solving adventures with the intrepid boxing glove-clad egg, Dizzy. In Dizzy's self-titled first outing, the ovular adventurer sets out on a journey to search for magical ingredients he can toss into a cauldron to create a potion to defeat the evil wizard, Zax. Seems like they really liked their cauldrons back in the 80s. Anyway, if you have played Dizzy before, you might have been so caught up in all the floaty platforming, obscure object-based puzzle solving, and pixel hunting that you may not have even thought about the fact that the protagonist would likely make a very tasty omelette, should you have the strength of will to ignore those big cartoon eyes looking up at you when you crack him into a saucepan. Indeed, all of his eggy friends that are introduced in subsequent games, collectively known as the Yolk Folk, are ripe for frying, scrambling, or poaching. That's assuming, of course, they are poultry eggs rather than, like, lizard eggs or something. Can you eat lizard eggs? I mean, I'm guessing you probably can if they're not fertilized, but I'm really not sure that's something I want to Google. Number 3. Resident Evil 2. What's Resident Evil 2 doing here? I hear you cry in your silly voice. Well, if you're a fan of the series, or a person who often watches gaming list videos on YouTube, then you probably already know that Capcom's classic survival horror has a coagulated soy milk secret. After completing 6 scenarios with an A ranking, players will be able to access the unfortunately non-canon minigame, the Tofu Survivor, and must undertake the challenging process of completing the 4th survivor scenario while playing as a block of tofu. This bonkers secret is revived for the 2019 remake, allowing fans to play as tofu in its lovingly rendered high-definition form. The Resident Evil 2 remake also shows our low-calorie companion losing chunks of itself as it takes damage, and honestly, it just makes me feel a little uncomfortable seeing wounded tofu jiggle around with bits missing. Unfortunately, even if you do get tofu safely through this harrowing experience, it appears that the Umbrella Security Service operator, codenamed Hunk, tucks in to our protein-rich protagonist on the extraction chopper. It's one of those unfortunate side effects of being so filled with protein and helpful amino acids. If the zombies don't get you, your so-called allies will. God, who'd have thought someone called Hunk would turn out to be such a soy boy? Number 2. Cake Bash. At last, it's time for dessert, meaning I can finally talk about one of my all-time favourite food groups. Cake! There it is, right at the broad base of the food pyramid. In Cake Bash, a 2020 multiplayer party game developed by High Tea Frog, players get to take part in an extremely literal food fight, as sentient cakes, donuts, muffins, eclairs, and other baked goods sprout cartoon arms and legs and proceed to beat the ever-loving sugar out of each other in an effort to clear treat-based missions. Cake Bash offers players the opportunity to take part in a number of delicious-looking events, including throwing as much fruit filling as possible into a pie while avoiding hungry pigeons, and frantically running around smashing open fortune cookies. Of course, these minigames generally descend into gratuitous cake-on-cake violence, as players try to get the upper hand, but when it's also colourful and adorable, it's really hard to condemn. Cake Bash's visuals are so good, in fact, that if you've got a bit of a sweet tooth, sleuth, a gaming session on this delectable gem is sure to get your stomach grumbling. We recommend preparing an emergency batch of frosted cupcakes before settling in for an evening of cake bashing, just in case. And number 1, Bacon Man: An Adventure. I told you he was coming, and oh boy has he arrived. While most of the other games on our list seem to have created their food-based characters to be cute or quirky, 2018's Bacon Man: An Adventure just feels like the game developers were really hungry during the concept meetings. Focusing on the titular Bacon Man, the game takes place in the Kingdom of Nomround, where the old ruler, King Roastbeef, has passed away. As next in line to the meat throne, things are looking up for Bacon Man, but he's framed by the Pork King, and will have to fight for his rightful place on top of the meat pile. This 3D side-scrolling adventure will see Bacon Man exploring locations like the Freezer and the Colosseum, as he attempts to take revenge on his accusers by taking matters into his own streaky hands. Players can expect a tough adventure with some neat visuals and a definite Earthworm Jim influence, meaning lots of wacky level design, absurd bosses, and goofy humour. Surprisingly, Bacon Man: An Adventure is a pretty decent platformer. It's definitely got some sizzle and isn't just another flash in the pan. Be warned though, it's got a mean streak, and unsuspecting players may end up getting smoked. Don't be salty about it now.